This is the CJ Silas Show. She's been talking sports for over half her life. You'll hear big-name guests and all the hot topics. Her roller derby sisters call her Dodge Her Blue. CJ's proud of her California roots and time in New York. Born and raised in L.A., college at USC and Syracuse University. She's not afraid to share her opinions with you. And, like it or not, she wants to be the change. Ladies and gentlemen, all ears and no mask required. Here she is, CJ Silas.
Hey, 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 welcome in live and direct from the ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7 studios of the Ticket in San Luis Obispo. I'm back. I'm rested. I'm rejuvenated. I'm probably a little hungover. I had an amazing time away. I always try to take time in the month of January to get calm and save my voice because starting next week, the college baseball season starts. Hancock starts next Thursday. Hancock softball starts, I think, the next week. And then we have our Cal Poly baseball alumni game on Saturday, February 5th. So it's on. Between next Thursday and Memorial Day, I have 100+ baseball and softball games to announce. So I always take a little time in January. I had a great time. And one of the best things about my vacation was watching football without having an opinion. Meaning, I wasn't watching the football games to think about what I was going to say about the football games on a show. For instance, the national championship game between Alabama and Georgia. I got to watch that game with an adult beverage in my hand and cheering and rooting and not worrying about what team was doing well, what mistakes the other team was making, who was coaching better than the other coach. I actually just watched Georgia and Alabama, and I was rooting for the Bulldogs. I have to admit, I was pretty happy that went down. And then also there was NFL stuff. I got to watch Week 18 of the NFL. I watched Raiders Chargers, and I didn't have to think about what I was going to say about it. I just got to watch the game, and I'm telling you, Justin Herbert, I don't care what anybody says, he's going to be one of those kids that we're talking about for years. He is high-quality NFL quarterback. I got to root for the Buffalo Bills for my friend Christine Lisi. I got to root for the Cincinnati Bengals for my friend Alan Flowers. I literally was watching all these games rooting instead of thinking. And you may not even get that. So many people think, oh, you work in sports talk radio, your job is so cool. And you're right. But it's not all fun and games all the time. There's this idea in sports broadcasting, which I always negate, that we're all journalists. We're not. I'm not a columnist. I'm not a beat writer. I don't follow a team around. I don't have to be objective. Sports talk radio is a very subjective style medium under the umbrella of sports broadcasting. But there are times when your work takes your fun out of it and the heart out of it and the fandom out of it, which I don't like a lot. And that's kind of why I decided to create the CJ Silas Show 10 years ago in March, because I wanted to do it my way. But there are still moments of pressure where you have to be objective and you have to be educated and you have to be professional. I didn't have to be professional over the past couple weeks, which was really cool. I was impressed by the way that ESPN handled Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. His birthday was Saturday, the 15th of January, and it was celebrated all week long, and then it commemorates now on Monday, which is a national holiday, and which, shame on you, Arizona, it took you forever to actually recognize that holiday. Muhammad Ali's birthday fell on Monday, Martin Luther King's birthday, which was really cool too. So there's this celebration. And then James Earl Jones' birthday falls this week. And then my favorite, Jackie Robinson, comes on January 31st. We will do a special show for him at the end of this month. But I was impressed. And I must say there have been many, many times during my career where I was working for someone else on Martin Luther King's birthday or Jackie Robinson's birthday or Martin Luther King's birthday, and I would try to do something that was not allowed. It wasn't supposedly interesting to people. And as I remember, and I will always say, like Tommy Smith and Juan Carlos at the Olympics in Mexico 1968, Muhammad Ali refusing to go to Vietnam as a soldier. Jackie Robinson fighting his way into Major League Baseball without an attitude with the help of Branch Rickey. And then Colin Kaepernick in 2017 honoring the military by taking a knee rather than sitting during the national anthem. All of these folks are creating this history for us. And if you look back, when they were doing these things, they were hated. They weren't supported by the majority. They had death threats. Now, we look back at some of these folks as heroes. I look back at them all as heroes. And it makes me happy to see that the broadcasting company that I work under, the umbrella, ESPN, did such a good job of honoring him and having players talk and really not making it like Breast Cancer Awareness Month where they just have people just have their players wear pink ribbons and they really don't even know what it's representing. They actually took a lot of time to create the celebration of Martin Luther King over the weekend. Then yesterday, if you missed this story, Willie O'Ree, the first black player to appear in an NHL game, January 18th, 1958, 11 years after Jackie Robinson, his number was retired. Only the 12th Boston Bruin to have his number retired. Very cool. He was inducted into the NHL Hall of Fame in 2018, and what's really nice is he's still alive. Sometimes this stuff happens after, and I'm like, why? I mean, yes, it's good for the family, but it's very cool that O'Ree was alive. He wasn't at the event yesterday. He was just because of COVID and his age. They did it virtually. But Fenway, Gillette Stadium, and City Hall in Boston all lit up in gold last night to honor Willie O'Ree. All the NHL teams honored him during their pregame on their jumbotrons. The Bruins players wore number 22 during the warm-ups, and in the locker room, it was celebrated with commemorative nameplates, with patches, his picture, and during the week in Boston, this week while the Bruins are home, there's a number 22 decal behind both of the nets. So I like that story. It makes me happy. John Clayton is joining us tonight, his annual visit during the NFL playoffs. He's writing for the Washington Post now. He spent 23 years at ESPN, and he still does a show at ESPN 710 in Seattle. And I must say, we've known each other over 25 years. I was his first radio producer on the John Clayton Show in Seattle on Sports Radio 950 KJR. Whoa, how did that? I can't believe I remember the call letters. He'll be on the show. I want to get his take on some of the stories coming out of Seattle with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll and the rumors in the national media about the changes there. Seattle, nobody's even talking about that. Everyone's expecting Russell Wilson to stay in Seattle. Get his take on who's going to get these coaching jobs. And then what is the best job out there with the 8 NFL jobs that are open. So John Clayton's going to join us in just a few minutes. As I do every week on the CJ Silas Show, we celebrate black and brown people in the world of sports, civil rights, music, and entertainment that have been forgotten or not honored as much as they should. And we try to do it around people that were born in this month. That's kind of how we do it. And this month we're celebrating George Foreman, born January 10th, 1949. An American former professional boxer, entrepreneur, minister, and author. In boxing, Foreman was nicknamed Big George. He competed between 1967 and 1997. That's 30 years. That's a long career. He's a 2-time world heavyweight champ and an Olympic gold medalist. As an entrepreneur, he is known for the George Foreman Grill. Supposedly, makes the best chicken, but I've never had one. I've never seen it. Foreman is the oldest to ever win the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship of major honors, the second oldest in any weight class after Bernard Hopkins at light heavyweight. He retired in 1997. He was 48 with a final record of 76 wins, 68 by knockout, and only 5 losses. George Foreman's been inducted into the World Boxing Hall of Fame and the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Outside of boxing, he's still a successful entrepreneur, known for his promotion of the George Foreman Grill. It's sold more than 100 million units worldwide. In 1999, he sold the commercial rights to the grill, oh my gosh, for $138 million. George Foreman. Martin Luther King Jr., born January 15th, 1929. an American Baptist minister and activist. He became the most visible spokesman and leader in the American Civil Rights Movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. King advanced civil rights through nonviolence and civil disobedience, inspired by his Christian beliefs and the nonviolent activism of Mahatma Gandhi. Hold on, I need to take some water. It's live radio. Martin Luther King led the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott, later became the first president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. King helped organize the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his I Have a Dream speech. That was on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. On October 14th, 1964, Martin Luther King won the Nobel Peace Prize for combating racial inequality through nonviolent resistance. In 1965, he helped organize 2 of the 3 Selma to Montgomery marches. In his final years, he expanded his focus to include opposition towards poverty, capitalism, and the Vietnam War. In 1968, MLK was planning a national occupation of Washington, D.C. It was going to be called the Poor People's Campaign, but he was assassinated before that could happen on April 4th in Memphis, Tennessee. Martin Luther King, who once said that Jackie Robinson did more for the civil rights movement than he ever could, but I think they did a lot side by side. Julian Bond, born January 14th, 1940, an American social activist, leader of the civil rights movement, politician, professor, and writer. While he was a student at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia during the 60s, he helped establish the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. In 1971, Julian Bond helped found the Southern Poverty Law Center in Montgomery, Alabama, and served as its first president for almost 10 years. Bond was elected to serve 4 terms in the Georgia House of Representatives. Later, he was elected to serve 6 terms in the Georgia State Senate, serving a total of 20 years in both legislative chambers. From 1998 to 2010, he was chairman of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Julian Bond. Black history, brown history, every week on the CJ Silas Show. I did want to, before I get to John Clayton, he'll be on in just a couple minutes. I saw a movie. I don't know if I talked about it before I left, but I saw the movie with Will Smith called King Richard. It's the story of Richard Williams, Serena and Venus's father. Coincidentally, on my vacation, I read Will Smith's autobiography. Wow. I saw him in the Concussion movie. I think it was called Concussion, and he was incredible. And I think he was, will you check this, guys? I think he was nominated for an Academy Award for that movie. I know he didn't win it, but he's never won an Academy Award, and I think this could be the year that Will Smith wins an award for the movie King Richard. It is a fantastic story. It's the journey of Venus and Serena since they were little girls, but through you're kind of through watching binoculars from the dad's perspective. So it's not a story about the women, even though they're in it, and it's got them. They're following it, but the story is really centered around what he did, how he went through it, and how he got such a bad reputation, but what he set out to do, he really has done. So he was nominated, but he didn't win. He was nominated, I think, for some Emmy Awards, too, for The Fresh Prince. He won Grammy Awards. Will Smith is one of the hardest working entertainers. Now that I've read the book, I didn't know this when it was going on. And he's finally now in his 50s kind of learning how to settle in and sit back. Now that I've read his book, it's a really easy read, but a hard story to read because I didn't know how difficult it was, his childhood. And I didn't realize what he had gone through as he was coming up in the business, first as a rapper and second as an actor. He was also nominated for the Screen Actors Guild Award for The Pursuit of Happiness, outstanding performance by a male actor. That was 2007. And he literally just got nominated for a Screen Actors Guild on January 9th. And I know that because I vote, and I just dealt with the nominations, and I've got so many movies to watch in the next 3 weeks before I have to vote. But if you haven't seen King Richard, if you're a tennis fan, if you're a Venus and Serena fan, if you have any interest in what their life was like growing up and how prevalent he was in their upbringing and how he had planned so much for their path. And it actually seemed like what he planned happened. It really came to fruition. And neither of them are done. Neither has retired. And they're at the tail end of their careers, but they're both very successful. And it shows how he clashed a little bit with some of the coaches that they had, but he had really incredible concepts, and he loved his kids. He loved his kids. And then the woman that played his wife, I think she's up for Best Supporting Actress for the Screen Actors Guild. It's a tennis movie, but even more than that. I am a huge tennis fan, and I love Serena and Venus. I love them. And so to see this story really was special to me. I saw it over the break. There's also a documentary about the two of them. I think it's called Serena and Venus, or Venus and Serena, and I haven't seen that yet. That's on my list. But whether you like Will Smith or not, if you want to see an incredible acting performance and a cool angle of their story, because all the other stories are from the two women's perspective, and this is from the angle of the dad, who at times people would say was a little hard on them. He's been compared to Tiger Woods' dad. He's been compared to Todd Marinovich's dad. And Tiger, the prodigy that he became, Todd Marinovich, you know the story. He had all the talent, but then took the wrong turn into drugs and alcohol. You've heard him. He's been on the CJ Silas show, and he's turned his life around now. But those are just three examples, the Williams sisters, Tiger Woods, Todd Marinovich, former NFL quarterback. They're just three examples of fathers that played a very significant role in their athletes' lives. It's just really an interesting way to look at it, because it's prodigies, right? It's how good are they and how early in their life do you know? And he knew that his girls, now women, were both extremely talented tennis players and had an incredible future, not just in the world of tennis, but what Venus and Serena have done for brown and black children in the world of sports, given them hope, inspired them, convinced them to not give up, empowered young people of color to do whatever they want to do, even if you might have to break through some barriers. And Venus and Serena, what they did in the world of tennis, it's just been incredible. Just like Tiger in golf. I mean, think about it. Think about pre-Tiger Woods. Calvin Pete. I mean, my mind, I can't even think of many people, Vijay Singh, people of color that were successful in the PGA that brought along, I mean, the fans that Tiger Woods brought to the world of golf, the fans that Venus and Serena brought to the world of tennis. Pretty incredible. Go out and see it. It's really wonderful. We're gonna get with John Clayton in just a couple minutes. Next week, more NFL playoffs after the divisional weekend. This weekend, we'll be looking into the NFC and AFC championship games. Next weekend, Kimberly A. Martin from ESPN will join us, and she's a Syracuse sister. She's been on the show before. Gabe is waving his 49ers jersey around. His 49ers jersey. I want to thank my partners, Joy Shell Beach, the Avila Bay Athletic Club and Spa, Michael Moore Sports Recovery, Dr. Brad Kurgis Dermatology, the Slow Wellness Center, Gymnazo, dentist Dr. Daniel Lapidus and Larry Ackerman, California Fresh Markets, where I shop, on 5 Cities Drive in Pismo Beach, Foothill Boulevard in San Luis Obispo, and El Rancho in San Ynez. And don't forget, March 30th is the 10-year anniversary show celebration. 4 listeners are going to win tickets to come to our private party on that week. If you want to get your name in the hopper for the 4 tickets, not plus ones, 4 tickets, 4 listeners. Maybe we'll do 2 listeners plus 1. Yeah, so they can bring a friend. They don't want, it'll be weird. We'll do 2 sets of 2. We'll do 2 pairs of tickets. And we're going to give them away at the middle to the end of March for our surprise private VIP CJ Silas Show 10-year anniversary party. We'll figure out on Instagram. We still haven't given away all of our prizes. We need to do January on Instagram. Will you remind me of that, Gabe? All right. So we've got our January giveaway. We've got our February giveaway. And then what we'll do for our March giveaway, no CJ Silas Show swag, no Laker posters, no Kobe posters. We will save 2 pairs of tickets to the VIP CJ Silas Show 10-year anniversary party in March for our listeners. Thank you for listening. If you missed the show and you can't listen to us live on Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, find the podcast wherever you find your podcasts. Easy to do it at thecjsilasshow.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel. I can't even say it's new anymore. I think it's been up for like a year. John Clayton, NFL Insider, coming up on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7, The Ticket.
We're back with the CJ Silas Show on ESPN Radio 1280. Here's CJ.
Welcome back. An NFL postseason without this guy would be a big problem, and thank goodness he always shows up for me. He is a columnist for the Washington Post. He was with ESPN over 20 years and now with ESPN 710 Seattle. A friend of mine for so long, I don't even want to tell you. John Clayton on the CJ Silas Show. Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, CJ. Always great to be with you.
How long after New Year's Eve is it too long to say Happy New Year?
I don't know. Question.
Well,
it depends. If the year's happy, then I guess you can keep saying it. If it isn't, I mean, if you're Jacksonville after hiring Urban Meyer or something like that, it's probably not a Happy New Year.
Oh man, for sure not. Let's talk quick Rams first, just because it happened. But I do want to catch up with you on your thoughts of what's going on in Seattle and with Coach of the Year and coaches openings. But after Monday night's playoff game, is the LA team the best team in the league?
No.
Who is?
Green Bay.
Still.
Yeah, Green Bay's still the best team. I mean, they got the best record. They've got Aaron Rodgers. They're the number 1 seed. They're the best team. And, Rams are trying to aspire to be in that top 3 or 4. And, they've been inconsistent, particularly with the turnovers with Matthew Stafford and that. But certainly against Arizona, they looked great. The revelation was that Cam Akers came off his Achilles and looked great.
What do the Rams have to do to beat Green Bay?
Well, 1, they have to run the ball. 2, they have to find a way to control Aaron Rodgers. And then 3, they have to figure out a way to win and get the passing game going in the cold weather.
Yeah, it's going to be freezing. It's going to be absolutely nuts.
Because, again, it's like if you're going to be playing them, I mean, you've got, it's like this weekend, it's like going to be, in the teens for San Francisco. And I think the wind chill takes it down to 0.
Crazy. He is John Clayton. He is not the botanist from England, because if he was, he would be 328 years old, and he is not that old. And he is my friend, John Clayton from the Washington Post, joining the CJ Silas Show. After this past weekend, watching Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers, he did bang up his shoulder a little bit. What is the future for him with the 49ers?
I have to think he's going to get traded, because I think, when you make all those draft choice moves, you end up getting a young quarterback like Trey Lance. I mean, you've got to go with them, because, again, if not, you've wasted all those draft choices. And so now, because I'm sure they can probably get a second or a third round draft choice for Jimmy, that, he'll have to be traded. What team? No idea. But I have to think that right now he's got to be on the move. Not only does he have the shoulder injury, but he also has the thumb injury too. And so those are 2 injuries that can be very devastating to a quarterback. And if that's going to be the case, you may see Trey Lance go out there. And then on top of it, if you've got a thumb injury and you're playing in 0 wind chill, that sure doesn't help if you're going to be San Francisco and you're going to be Jimmy Garoppolo.
The Rams have to get by the Bucs. The Packers and the 49ers, we talked a little bit about that. And I asked you what the Rams have to do to beat the Packers, but first they have to get through Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and it's not cold there. And what is that game going to look like this coming weekend?
It's going to be different because, again, they've got so many injuries right now. Tampa Bay, I mean, I don't know if Leonard Fournette's going to be back, if they'll have their backup running back, Ronnie Jones. We know that Tristan Wolf, the right tackle, he's got a bad ankle. We'll find out. And then, if they've had some injuries on defense, that's going to slow them down a little bit. But they've got Tom Brady. They're at home. And so they should be able to pull it out.
I've known him for years. He was with ESPN over 20, NFL insider, Washington Post columnist, John Clayton on the CJ Silas Show. The Raiders fire Mike Mayok after just 3 years. What comes next for this Las Vegas team?
Well, I mean, they set up a few candidates to come in, but now there's a growing thought that maybe they will go back to Jim Harbaugh. Now, I thought that Harbaugh was pretty well set to go back to Michigan the other day, particularly last week when he hired a defensive line coach. But now with Mayok gone, remember, Mark Davis was willing to pay 10 years, $100 million to get John Gruden. I would have to think he might exceed that in what he's going to pay Jim Harbaugh. So I think Harbaugh may move into the number one spot. And if that's going to be the case, that'll be fascinating because then Harbaugh can get Vic Fangio over as defensive coordinator.
John, of all the coaches' openings right now, we've got 8. Which is the best job?
I'd say right now, Jacksonville and Denver, those are the 2 best. Now, Jacksonville's still going to be bad for a couple years. There's just no talent there, particularly on defense. Denver's a good job, because, you get a good general manager in George Payton. You get the best secondary in the league. You get 3 really good wide receivers, Noah Fant at tight end, one of the better young running backs in the league, Javonte Williams. I think Denver is a really good job for anybody among the 8.
David Culley gets fired after just 1 year with the Texans. He had nothing to work with. What does his future look like?
The future looks good because he's got, 3 years at $22 million coming to him, so he doesn't have to do anything. Remember, he was hired in the 60s, so it's like, he can sit back and relax and just see if there's a consulting job, if there's a job as a wide receiver coach. It was so unfair to him because that team is void of any talent. The worst-run franchise in sports. They're horrible.
Dan Snyder and the Washington football team, whether Ron Rivera is there or not, I wouldn't want to work for him, would you?
It might be tough, because, and particularly you would not want to work for him. With all the, and the reason is you're a woman.
Right,
and
right.
Look what happened to women who worked in the Washington football team for many, many years.
Right.
And so it's like he still is going to run the franchise. That's the one thing in the National Football League is that they stick by the owners, and he's still the owner, even though he may not be the most popular owner. But, I think it's going to be very difficult.
He's John Clayton from the Washington Post and ESPN 710 Seattle. We met at the beginning of, I would say both of our radio careers. You'd been writing for a while when I met you, but your radio career started in Seattle, and I was your producer on Saturday.
I know.
I don't even want to tell people, but it was in the 90s, and so we've been friends for a long time. He is joining the CJ Silas Show. Coach of the Year, who do you think gets it?
Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, in my opinion. There's a lot of really good candidates, without question. Certainly Matt LaFleur deserves good consideration. But I have to think right now, Zach Taylor, nobody expected Cincinnati to be winning the AFC North. Nobody. Look what he's been able to do with Joe Burrow. Look what he's been able to do with that Bengals offense. And so I'd say Zach Taylor from Cincinnati.
What do you think of Bengals-Titans this weekend?
Obviously, the Titans are going to be favored because they're at home. And we'll see where they stand as far as getting 2 key players back because Julio Jones now is a little bit healthier. He didn't do well since coming over from the trade, and they may have Derrick Henry back. So you put those 2 guys back on that offense, they're really dangerous. But still, it's you got to. I think that's going to be again. When you look at the matchups in the divisional round, they're all good.
Yeah, I was looking at that, too. We already talked about 49ers. We talked about Rams, Bucks, Bills, and Chiefs, and they're playing in Kansas City. How do you see that game going?
That's going to be a good one because, again, the Bills have been able to win. I think they won the last one 38-10. And then, of course, but still, you've got Patrick Mahomes. You've got Andy Reid. You've got a decent defense. And, their ability to – you saw that last week. Their ability to get run after catch. I think of the 404 yards that Mahomes had, it was about 258 in yards after the catch. And if the Bills, their best cornerback, on IR, ACL injury, they could be very vulnerable to Patrick Mahomes and what he's able to do. That's why the Chiefs have to be favored in this one.
You can find him at John Clayton NFL. He is joining the CJ Silas Show. I saved the best for last. I got to know what's going on with the Seahawks. Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, you're there. He's got 2 years left on his contract. I don't think he's leaving Seattle, but you're there. Give me an update not only on Carroll, but also on Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, the owner met with Pete Carroll and John Snyder on Thursday. They didn't even discuss any changes. No discussion because, a lot of people spoiled here in Seattle wanted Pete fired for the 7-10 season. That did not happen. They did change their defensive coordinator because they fired Ken Norton Jr. and have a list of 5 right now that they're talking to. As far as Russell Wilson, he's not going to be traded. And I don't know. I mean, it's like everybody still nationwide keeps on bringing up the idea, what about the Bears getting him? What about this team? It's like, he's not being traded. Because, again, if you trade Russell Wilson, and, again, teams don't trade Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You had that happen with Peyton Manning, but that's because they were able to get Andrew Luck. And that was because of the fact that Peyton was hurt and all that stuff. So he's going to be here. It's just a matter of getting him a little bit more talent, getting him a better offensive line, and keeping him happy.
Russell Wilson and his family are settled in the Pacific Northwest. It's obvious the national talking heads are talking about him leaving. But when they talk about him in Seattle, radio, newspapers, TV, what are the words coming from that actual region?
The thing was, he was off this year because he had a really bad finger injury, a really bad one, and so that kept him out 3 games. Then he came back and wasn't very good for 3 games, and so he was still a little bit off in his throwing the rest of the season. This, now recover. He'll be back to being at the top of the game and, be among the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in football.
You get to talk to a lot of these guys. You've been doing it for years and years. Is Russell Wilson as awesome and cool and down-to-earth as he seems?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with him is that he is such an intense worker. I mean, because he gets up early, he gets to the facility so early, he works late. I mean, he does all these different things, and he's very involved in charities, all those things. And he just wants to prepare because all he's interested in doing is preparing and getting to Super Bowls. And so it's like he is so dedicated, and he was so dedicated when he was coming off that finger injury. Like, for example, the doctor said that's about as bad as it gets on the finger, and yet he said, I've never seen anybody work as hard as he did to try to get better.
John, you've been doing this a long time, and sometimes now with social media, which really became much more prevalent later in both of our careers. But you've been watching quarterbacks talk. You've been listening to them your entire career. Social media comes up, Twitter, Instagram, all the other ways we can hear from them. What's your opinion on how the media interprets when guys say certain things?
Because, again, it's like I think what's happening now, you have a lot of younger reporters, they're more interested in the clicks than the accuracy. For example, Russell Wilson had about a 4-week stretch where he said he wants to stay in Seattle, and in one of those sessions he says, but you never know what's going to happen. So what's everybody nationwide do? They say, well, look at that. He says he doesn't know what's going to happen. He's going to be traded. It's like, give me a break. I mean, again, I know being old school, and I am old school in reporting, and we're certainly that way at ESPN. I mean, you have to listen to what somebody says and don't exaggerate or don't take it to another level that may not be accurate. A lot of reporters are doing that.
Whenever I tell people that I'm going to talk to you, I swear every single time they ask me about the ponytail. I don't know. I mean, we're going to be 90 playing cricket. No, not cricket. We're going to be playing shuffleboard at the senior center together.
Right.
And people are still going to be asking me about your ponytail. Did you use product on it? Did you use gel? What kind of product?
Well, let's put it this way. It's like because we go back so long. I mean, I don't have much hair, right? So, what ended up happening is that, the ad agency designated me for the commercial and wanted me so bad because they thought this was going to be the best ESPN commercial they ever did. And so what ended up happening is that we had a sound stage down in L.A. with 65 people involved in the production for this commercial, okay? And so I had 2 hairdressers. Think about this. Somebody with no hair, very little hair, with 2 hairdressers. Go figure that one out.
I can't. Oh my gosh. I still, this many years later, and when they hear that you're going to be on the show or they know that we're friends, that's the first thing people ask me about. As smart as you are, as much as you know about the NFL, they don't even go to the football question, JC. They go straight to the ponytail.
Well, you know, my standard line is, particularly in being in public places and people come over and ask me, it's like, where's your ponytail? And my standard line is, it's tucked in. And obviously, we know that's not true, but it's like I say that anyways.
It's always good to talk to you. Please give your lovely bride a hug for me, and I'm going to be in Seattle this summer if everything goes well and it's safe to travel, and I've got to see you. It's been too long.
That'll be great. CJ, I've been looking forward to that, and I look forward to talking to you every year.
All right, take care. John Clayton from the Washington Post and ESPN 710 Seattle. Coming up next, the Cal Poly Sports Update on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7, The Ticket.
Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. From her perch atop Madonna Mountain, let's hear it for CJ Silas.
Oh, gee. Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. This segment's brought to you by dentist Dr. Daniel Lapidus and Larry Ackerman, who just informed me I need a crown. Got to do that this week. Thank goodness for them. Oh, my gosh. They've been with me since the beginning. Give them a call, 543-7993. They are strategically accepting new patients, meaning you have to drop my name. Let's be honest. They are so busy. They do accept all payments, all insurance, and care credit, which is helpful. The best thing about them is they open 8 a.m., so you can get in there early, and they do take pride in helping you attain and maintain your dental health. 543-7993. John Clayton, we go so far back. I'm thinking, and I'm not sure, but I remember the day the O.J. Simpson verdict came, and it was 1996, October-ish. I'm pretty sure it was 95 or 96 that 95, 94 was, I think the murder was in 94. I'm thinking out loud. The O.J. Simpson trial was, so October of 95, they deliberated. But they announced it the next day. So October of 1995, I'm pretty sure that I was in the Sports Radio 950 KJR AM control room with John Clayton that day. He didn't have a show, but I think he came in either to do an interview or do some taping for his show because his show was on Saturdays. I'm pretty sure. That means I started producing his show in 1995. You do the math. That's 27 years of friendship. In his day, obviously now, there's a new young crowd of journalists coming up in the NFL. New NFL insiders, the Tom Jacksons, the Chris Mortensons, the Sal Palantonio, the John Clayton. They're all still very knowledgeable and good at their job. But the new kids, we call them kids, the young people in the NFL. Kimberly A. Martin is one of them, and ESPN, Mina Kimes. She's going to be on the show next week. Who else is it? There's some of there are a couple of the guys. Adam Schefter, Cynthia Freeland. I love Dan Orlovsky. I also like Carson Palmer's doing a good job. And there was another guy that I heard recently. My point is, it's almost as if there are generations for 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 years of journalists that start to kind of phase out. He's not at ESPN National anymore, still with ESPN 710, and he's been there for a while since he left KJR. He's been with the Washington Post for a while, too. So knowledgeable and such an incredible guy. Next week, we're going to have someone from the new generation, Kimberly A. Martin. I knew she was a Syracuse kid, but I met her. When did Kimberly and we were in Syracuse for an event. We were in Syracuse. Oh, Syracuse does this super cool bonding thing with all their alum. And they brought quite a few of us back for something called Sports Matters. Marcus Hayes was there, who's a journalist in Philadelphia. Kimberly A. Martin was there. Don McPherson was there, who's been on the show, who's a former quarterback. Who else was there? I was there. We got to hang out for a few days, and we were on panels that spoke about certain topics. Oh, there was another woman there that was really cool. And I met Kimberly at that event. And we've stayed friends, obviously. She's the new generation, and she's killing it. She's on Greenie, it feels like, every day. Greenie loves her. We're lucky. She's going to be on the CJ Silas show next week. We're going to look back at this weekend's NFL playoffs. John and I talked about them. San Francisco against Green Bay, Bills, Chiefs, Rams, Bucks, Cincinnati and the Titans. That game seems so weird to me that those two teams are in the playoffs. Super fun, though. I had dinner with a friend in L.A. over the weekend on my vacation who's a bigwig at the NFL Network, and he's a huge Bengals fan. And he posted a picture of himself after the weekend with this old, grimy Bengals sweatshirt on. And when he met me for dinner in West L.A. on Sunday night, he had this, we were dressed up, we went to a nice fancy place, but underneath he had a Bengals t-shirt that he showed me. He's like, I am wearing something Bengals because my team has won to live another week. I was rooting hard for the Bengals in that one just because of my friend. You know, you've got friends that are longtime fans of certain teams, and their teams get in, and you're like, oh my gosh, how can I not root for you because it's been so long since your team was in it. I can't wait for when my friends are rooting for me because the Dolphins make the postseason. Well, you can't make the postseason if you fire a good coach. Besides David Culley getting fired inappropriately recently, Brian Flores should not have been fired. The ownership, oh gosh, don't get me started with the Miami Dolphins ownership. Please don't. Please don't. Because there was a time when I liked the owners of my favorite NFL team. I'm guessing if you're a Texans fan, there's not much to like about that team. But David Culley was something to like, and he was given no tools, nothing. He was actually set up to fail. I wonder if that was a plan. Obviously, nobody knew that Deshaun Watson was going to be such a tool and a criminal and a sexual assaulter, allegedly, but I believe it's true if that many women have come forward. He didn't have any tools, David Culley. I hope this does not affect his chance to get another head coaching job because that was not fair. Gabe asked me, why haven't you talked about Brian Flores on the show? Because I don't want to seem like a homer. If I was on radio in the last time that the Dolphins went to the postseason, was it really that long? Okay, oh my God. That was, okay, so in 2000, they've been to the playoffs, but forgettable. I guess the best year I could remember is when, I think it was like 2000 or 2001, when they swept the Patriots in the regular season. That's all I can remember, because it's like the Super Bowl when they beat the Patriots. So Gabe says to me, aren't you going to talk about the Dolphins? I'm not working in Miami. I don't want the CJ Silas show to just be about my favorite teams, though once in a while, my fandom does seep through. And now that Gabe said that, he gave me permission to talk about Brian Flores being fired. More NFL with Kimberly A. Martin, NFL insider from ESPN, next week on the show. The Cal Poly, Hancock, and Cuesta Sports update. A lot of things have been canceled, postponed, rescheduled due to COVID, but there has been a little bit that has happened, so we'll talk about that. The Hancock Bulldogs lost to Moore Park. They're playing against Santa Barbara tonight. They're 8-8 and 0-1 in the WSC. Women's basketball hasn't even started their conference season because they've had COVID protocol happening. They're supposed to play Santa Barbara tonight as well, and then they're at Ventura this weekend, but they haven't had any games since December 30th, the women's basketball team, because of COVID. So let's hope they get that game off tonight. Cuesta women's basketball got their first win, 68-41 over Oxnard. They're hosting Pierce tonight. I haven't even seen anything about Cuesta men's basketball. That probably means there's some COVID protocol happening. Cal Poly, the wrestling event hosting the Pac-12 duel against Arizona State, was supposed to be this Friday in Mott, Because of COVID, they moved it to Monday, still in Mott. Evan Wick is just a badass. He's a transfer. He's number 1 and number 2 at the 160 pounds in a lot of the polls. Cal Poly Wrestling's always been really good. If you can make it out to Mott Athletic Center Monday, that'll be good. Diving, Max Powell broke a school record in the 1 meter in a win over Santa Cruz. The men won at 227-65. The women won at 180-114. Women's basketball at Cal Poly hasn't had much going on because of postponements and cancellations due to COVID. Stay tuned. Men's basketball lost to Riverside 57-46. Then they beat Davis over the weekend. It was their first Big West win, 82-74. And then they lost a tough one to Bakersfield. I think it was last night, 73-60. They're hosting Hawaii this Saturday at 7 o'clock. We hope that game happens. Tennis. Freshman local Peyton Dunkel, sister to Delaney, won the Big West Tennis Athlete of the Week. It's her first win. She went 3-0 against Cal last week. Next up, the team will play at Oregon. They'll take on the Ducks on Friday, and they will play Gonzaga on Saturday. It's so fun that both of the Dunkels are going to Cal Poly. Hopefully, this September, maybe the Women's Tennis Association will bring back that really cool event in Templeton at the Tennis Ranch, because I got to see Delaney, and she's been in the studio on the show a couple times. That was a really fun event pre-COVID. It was the only professional tennis event on the Central Coast since I've lived here at the beautiful Templeton Tennis Ranch. And a lot of women came through. Coco Vandeweghe came through, and she's a spitfire. Oh, I can't think about others that came in. They're not on my mind, and I'm not even going to try to look things up while I'm on the show. I'm not that smart. I can multitask. Like, I could probably knit and do the show. Wait a minute. I don't knit. I don't know why I would even say that. I could probably skate and do the show, or I don't know, color, but I can't look on my phone or look up things while I'm doing the show because I'm trying to focus. But what I'm trying to say is a lot of big names came through that played in that WTA event at the Templeton Tennis Ranch. Delaney was one of them. Sophia Whittle, she came through. I'm really hoping that happens in the fall. Oh my gosh, the show's already over? Did we get everything done? MLK, Black History, John Clayton. Kimberly A. Martin next week on the CJ Silas Show. More NFL postseason leading up to Super Bowl coming up in just a couple weeks. I'm going to turn off my mic now because I can. Make an appointment to listen every Wednesday at 5 Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the CJ Silas Show. Find her podcast on the CJSilasShow.com. Follow her on all social media platforms, including her YouTube channel. Make an appointment to listen every Wednesday on ESPN Radio 1280 AM and FM 101.7. CJ out.